Determinism versus freedom. The discussion of determinism versus freedom began 2,500 years ago with the Greeks. Determinism is the belief that human behavior is caused, and that man has no free will on which to act. Freedom is the theory that human actions are voluntary and uncompelled. In the field of psychology, psychoanalysts and behaviorists support the theory of determinism while existentialists believe in freedom. Determinists study man as an object. Freud states that the intellect and the mind are objects for scientific research in exactly the same way as any non-human things. He believed that man is determined by his childhood training and that personality can be explained in terms of sexuality. Different sexual impulses are related to whether or not an individual was breastfed as a baby or to the strictness of his toilet training. All man's actions are a result of subconscious conflicts between his desire to fulfill these impulses and his rationale. Thus, psychoanalysts believe a man's personality is developed before he reaches the age of 6 and that the training he received during those first years determines how he will act throughout the rest of his life. Psychoanalysis has now receded in significance and behaviorism has taken its place. Behaviorists study animals to understand the behavior of man. Skinner believed that man has no free will and therefore no choice. Man is driven to do all things. He believed that man has been trained to do everything, and because man has no inner being, his acts are determined by what he has been brought up to be. Skinner studied the conditioned reactions of rats in boxes. The rats learned that by the accidental tripping of a lever, they would get food. Skinner believed that man acted in the same manner. In the early years, a man is conditioned to act in certain ways to get what he wants and to please others. Life is a process of constant learning, and man will act only on what he has learned. Existentialists reject the determinists' approach to studying man as an object. They believe that man himself must be studied. Man must decide his own destiny. Merleau-Ponty argues that man is free because his perceptual and behavioral acts are always mediated by the values and the attitudes of the self that he has chosen and created. Existentialists believe man has the freedom to choose what he does and what he will become. Man is responsible not for what happens to him but for his reactions afterwards. Man has the freedom to choose one action over another and thus decide his own life. Although I reject the ideas of Freud and the basis for Skinner's studies, I do believe that, to an extent, an individual's life is determined. A man's character is basically formed before the age when an individual can do anything about it. When we are children, our parents teach us and discipline us to act in the ways they want us to. When we grow older, society requires that we continue to act as we have been taught if we wish to be accepted. The influence of those around us will also determine, in part, how we will act. I believe man has free will, but because our society is rooted in the belief of determinism, it is hard for anyone to express their freedom. I believe man is free but within limits. Once reaching the age when he can do something about his character, man is free to choose to either remain under the deterministic influence of all he has been taught or break away and begin to develop his life on his own.